Today, I am talking to a welterweight contender, and he trains out of Catone MMA in New Jersey. You can catch his next fight on April 12th at CFFC 131. That happens in Atlantic City at the Hard Rock. Available worldwide on UFC Fight Pass. Make sure you check it out wherever you are in the world. And he joins me right now, CJ LaFragola, back on the program. CJ, welcome. Glad we could do this, and I hope your eyes feeling a little bit better. Sorry about that.
Hey, doing good. Hey, that's what happens when you train with some tough guys who are also on the card. It's me and Eric were actually sparring a little bit, so we get a little chippy, but that's how you get better.
I completely understand. I wanted to chit chat a little bit about some major UFC happenings. I was hoping I could talk to you a little bit about this Volkanovski fight that just happened. He got knocked out, and a lot of us are feeling still pretty emo about that. Were you surprised that Ilia Topuria knocked him out, and did Volk come back a little too soon, in your opinion?
I was surprised for sure. I mean, I knew Ilya, was a dog. And everybody, you always get worried when you see a guy get knocked out pretty tough, like in his last fight. But you see somebody get knocked out in their fight before, so like sometimes, you get worried about how that chin's gonna hold up. And he got caught. Things happen. That's part of the fight game. But it always stinks. Volk's a fan favorite. He's a crowd pleaser, family guy. You love him. So like you want to see him go to war like he's always had. But that just shows the caliber of a fighter that Topuria is, and I'm excited to see what the next step is for that weight class. There's a lot of good contenders kind of coming up and rising, yeah, I mean, obviously Volk still has, I think, the opportunity to get another probably shot, maybe one fight and get back to it as long as he performs well. And I don't know, it'll be interesting. We see somebody on the rise and that owns the division for so long go down like the way he did. It's always hard.
Well, they say history repeats in a way, because UFC 299, we got a similar fight in a way. Dustin Poirier going up against Benoit Saint-Denis. And this French dude, he's just like been on a tear. He's been on a killing spree. He's taking out everybody. Can the Diamond get this one done on Saturday night, or do you see maybe a changing of the guard here?
Been down with Dustin at Top Team before. I know him a little bit. And what did they say the stat line was? I think of his last time he lost, I think he's like coming off of a loss, has won 7 times. And he's a guy who's like, he can get knocked down. He's always going to get back up. And I think we're going to see, a performance just like we always see Dustin, a war. Obviously, we stay away from those head kicks, because I know my man's got some dangerous head kicks. But I really just love Dustin. I've always been a big fan. And I just believe that he could dig deep, and he's putting a lot on the line. He even mentioned in like one of these interviews recently, like, I don't know how many fights he's got left kind of thing. When like, so like, I almost feel like he's really leaving it all in the cage like he always does. And I don't know, it's going to be a war, but I think this is one that Dustin can, pull through and, just keep cementing his name as just one of the toughest dudes in the UFC.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it from the man himself. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about your 2023. You're one of the more active guys that I know about on the entire CFFC roster. 2023, you fought 3 times, 3 different times. And during midway through that year, you jumped up to the pro ranks. When you reflect back to 2023, CJ, like, how crazy was that, making that leap midway through 2023? And what were some of like the biggest lessons you learned in your first year as a pro?
I mean, actually, yeah, like you said, so coming off of the fight with Zane, my last amateur one, I wasn't 100% sure. I even had like an interview after, like the immediate interview after the fight. I was like, hey, whatever coaches think, whatever Nick's kind of thinking, Nick Catone, my coach, kind of go that way. And like, he was confident with the way I performed in that last amateur fight. And, I was a game opponent. Zane's a tough kid. He's still fighting amateur, which I think he can fight pro right now if he wanted to, but he's still, taking his time to learn. But I wasn't sure exactly. I thought I was maybe going to do one more amateur fight, but it's like, coach was confident in making that jump, and I was confident too. I mean, the only thing I maybe wasn't confident in at first was making weight, which sounds funny. My amateur fights, I did all at 185. Which I wrestled, 184. So I've always been around that 180. But, if I'm going to be doing this, even that Zane fight, I got cut. It's like you're still putting your body on the line. Yeah, it's an amateur fight. But as you start getting into that higher level amateur fights, you're putting your body at danger. So I'm like, why don't I start chipping closer to this goal of mine? It's like you got to start somewhere, and that's by going pro. That's the first step. But, I just felt confident. I felt really confident in that last fight, and I'll go pro. And, and I was excited. I got an opportunity, got a good matchup, and we went for it. And that's the other thing with the amateur. As you start getting to your later amateur career as like a wrestler, a lot of times it's hard to get fights even. So it's like it was almost like a matter of time where I was going to have to be almost forced to go pro kind of thing. So, and then that first pro fight was amazing back in AC. That's my home. I'm a Jersey boy through and through. I live in Philly. I coach at Drexel, but I still go back to the gym at Nick Catone's and back to Jersey. Jersey Shore has been my lifestyle. I always talk about that first pro fight was special because I've been training my whole life for Atlantic City. So that's why every time I fight in Atlantic City, it's just like getting ready for States. States is in Boardwalk Hall. Actually, they just got done a week ago with the States for Jersey wrestling. So like Atlantic City's always been the dream of mine, training, fighting. I've always been like an Arturo Gotti fan. So like fighting in Atlantic City just go hand in hand. So that first pro fight was extra special. I mean, we packed it in. I was like one of the lower fights, even being on like the undercard, but I was able to, put fans in the seats because that's home. Like I said, South Jersey, Jersey Shore. So super exciting. And then, to get that first win under my belt was super emotional. Like, I mean, I had a rough week. I mean, I talked about it before. I lost a good friend of ours, and it was like a kind of an emotional thing for like my first pro fight. But a lot of memories and a lot of emotions were shared in that fight. So then moving into that one, I wanted to keep going, keep progressing, and I fought Alonzo, another just a tough opponent, similar styles. That's why I thought it'd be an interesting matchup. And, I didn't come out on the right side, but I think I learned a lot from that. I took a couple good shots. I was able to, still control the fight. I still think I performed pretty well. I still was happy with what I did. Obviously not with the result, getting caught in the second, but, I overcome some adversity, which is something you got to learn. Even at my amateur level, I didn't have to overcome adversity like I did in that fight. So it's something that's like, you save that in the back of your mind, like, hey, I can weather a storm, recover, and still win a round, in my opinion. And so I take a learning lesson from that fight. And it was a whole experience to begin with. I fought down in Tampa. That was just super different, with the traveling and cutting weight. But now with the, going into 24, when I had the Ernesto fight, it's like I kind of got a system down. So I'm kind of learning with the weight as we go here. And, I'm just super confident just in my abilities and my training. And, I'm staying busy with coaching and wrestling and also fighting and training. And it's just like, the more I keep my mind active, like you said, I was pretty active. I want to be just as active, if not more active into this year. I just like Nick always said, Coach Catone, especially at this level, it's like a big training camp. I mean, I know the fights count now, like the records count, but you're training for that bigger goal. UFC, Bellator, PFL, like you're training for that. Like this is a camp. You're trying your best to learn and develop throughout all these fights, and make a name for yourself as you're doing it. But every day is a chance to learn, grow, opportunity. And that's kind of where my mind's at with all these fights. You got to take what you can get sometimes, and you want to push yourself and test yourself. So that's why, like you said, leading into this next fight, it's going to be a good test, similar styles, and I think I'm super excited for it. I think the card's insane. It's going to be just a great night for CFFC 131.
For CFFC 129, that was the Ernesto fight, and you fall short against Turner. And the biggest question I had for you is like, I know that you're a collegiate wrestler. I know that you've been on the mats before. I know that you've performed in front of tons of people, probably most of your life. I know that about you, but a lot of people go into that Ernesto fight, right? CFFC 129. It's in Philadelphia, and it's like, I'm batting 500. It's like, shit, like I gotta freaking get this guy out of here. That's like a pressure packed situation. And did you ever like lean back into like your wrestling experience, like having big matches before and performing in front of a ton of people before? Like, did that kind of like help you in a way, like mentally preparing for Ernesto? Because it was a very high stakes fight, I thought. And it was like, well, CJ's got to win this one. If he doesn't, he's screwed. And obviously you went out there and you delivered. But I was just curious, like in the build up to that fight, did you kind of have to like lean back into some of the things that you did during your wrestling career to help stay even keeled?
For sure. I mean, like we're at the conference tournament right now for EIWAs, and that's a big tournament to begin with. Just like referencing where I'm at, but even like college, throughout my college career, I've had plenty of big matchups, and just even competing at the national tournament 3 times, the NCAA's. I mean, CFFC is an awesome promotion, and like the energy is very similar to that, the NCAA environment. And even in states, I talked about states for high school, state finals, you're in Boardwalk Hall, one mat in the center. I mean, that's the first time I was really tested with that feel. So yeah, I definitely always lean on those experiences. Obviously, they're not fights. I mean, they're combat, situations, but you're not getting punched. But yeah, it's very similar emotions. And you got to just, the big thing I've been learning is just we actually work with a mental coach with Drexel, and he kind of works with me on the side at times too. And we talk about what a lot of our guys is like breath work, and just trying to stay in the moment and try not to overhype yourself up kind of thing. So like in the past, like with like wrestling, even I used to like be like Eminem 24/7 headphones whole tournament, and you don't realize how much the adrenaline's pumping the whole time. If you stay on the Eminem track or the Linkin Park track the whole time, your heart rate's going to be spiked. Your mind's going to be spiked. Your adrenaline's going. So I've learned to like kind of like tempo it out, like pace yourself, where it's like, all right, start off with just something cool, something chill, like more laid back music. And then like kind of as the vibes, as the pressure starts building and the time gets closer, then you can like spike the heart rate, as we like to say. That's always like our reference for the wrestlers. Hey guys, we got to spike our heart rate, get it going. And yeah, I definitely lean on those experiences. I mean, I've, back my best experience as a collegiate wrestler was nationals as a junior in Cleveland. And like that arena was huge. It was at the Cavaliers Arena, the basketball stadium. I remember my first experience at nationals. That was my second one. The first one, I was overwhelmed. I walked out. I didn't know which clock was mine even. I'm like, what is this? I was a wild card bid. So like I didn't actually even officially qualify I qualified my spot, but I had to get it like the sideways way. And I just like felt like my presence, like I wasn't like ready to be there. But then like the second year I was there, I really performed well. I made it to the top 16. I was like one match away from placing. And so like, yeah, exactly. I lean on those experiences, and every time, it was a chance to learn and grow. And yeah, I feel like for the Ernesto fight, it was the big thing for me was just staying calm. Like that morning I woke up, luckily I was at home in Philly. That just kept me calm to begin with. My apartment's in Philly. I said in the interview, I went up the street, came back. Like there was like 2 minutes. And so like, I think that was a big part for me, just knowing I was back at home. I was able to, go for a walk that morning in my neighborhood where I live. I ate the same foods I eat. So being consistent and keeping your mindset there, that's half the battle. And then just being comfortable in those, arenas. Like, the more you get in that cage for a pro fight or even amateur fights, it's like you learn and grow. Like any young fighter, it's like you got to weather the storm and face those adversities. You can't just show up one day and be like, I'm fighting this guy for my first fight, and he's really a tough opponent. You got to learn through experience. And yeah, I definitely lean on those experiences with wrestling and even my other sports. I played college football for like one season. So like, yeah, you got to, even after doing wrestling for 4 years, I was able to just jump into college football, and I was like, this is nothing. We wrestled. This is just fun, So it's like, I always lean on those experiences, even going back to high school.
Well, you absolutely delivered in your last performance. You got this guy out of there in less than a minute. What was the game plan for Ernesto? And were you surprised that you were able to find that rear naked choke as early as you did?
Yeah, I mean, game plan. I mean, I wanted to go in, I wanted to be smart, not, I know we're gonna say not rush in. It ended up going fast, but it's like, even like the initial wave, it's like, I'm not gonna just come out here, touch and go. Like I'm gonna like, pace myself a little bit. Like, I mean, it was hard. Even I told some of the other people before the fight, it's like, there's not a lot of film on this guy, so I don't know exactly what his style is. I had a kind of an idea, being a grappler, I'm like, he's going to try to throw some stuff up the middle. So I had some ideas of what to be aware of, but at the same time, I didn't know exactly what to expect. I mean, I knew he was a rangy opponent. He had some height on me. I don't know if he was like 6'2" maybe or something. He definitely was tall. So like he came out with the couple of kicks. So I didn't want to necessarily rush in. And my big thing is, you got to get these guys moving before you go for a takedown. Even if, you can get the takedown without setting it up, you got to work on your setups, work on your in and out, be a moving target. And yeah, obviously that's the performance worked out how I wanted it. It wasn't like I went in like, I'm going to get this finish in my mind. I went in expecting to have to go 15 minutes if I got to go 15 minutes. I mean, I said this previously. It was almost like, I'm going to do what I do, and if an opportunity opens up, I'm going to take it and not let go, though. Like in the past, I feel like I had opportunities in some other fights to get finishes, and I maybe hesitated a little bit. just trying to play it safe. But it's like if you get that window and you're at a fight, you got to take it and get the finish. And I think that's something that I'm learning more as I go here. It's like you can't let these guys off the hook. If you get a little bit of blood in the water, you got to take it. And even if it's submission, if it's punches, whatever type of finish it is, you know, it's a fight. You go 15 minutes, anything can happen. So if you get a chance to get a finish, you got to go take it. So that's kind of like what happened. I got on the back, and it's like once I grabbed the shoulder with my arm across, like I wasn't quite under the chin initially, but I got my arm across on his shoulder. I'm like, I know I can finish this. It's like, I'm not letting this off the hook no matter what. Like, I'm getting this done.
Here we go. We have an opportunity. CFFC 131, Kevin Pease. You're the type of guy, like, from the amount of time I've spent with you, like, you're taking this fight because you know he's good. Like, you're like that type of guy that like gravitates toward the challenges. And for you, in your mind, like, what are some of the keys to beating a guy like this?
Like I said, I always go out there, give my best effort, number one. I mean, that's always something I start with. But you know, I think a guy like this, you know, like I said, we're gonna meet fire with fire a little bit. I don't see it being one of those fights where it's like we're not going to wrestle because we both wrestle. I think it's going to be a lot of exchanges, and I think, you know, whoever comes out in the, you know, more positive in those wrestling exchanges is going to be the guy who comes out on top. You know, the big thing is going to be a gas tank battle. You know, with wrestling, with grappling, with those exchanges mixed with strikes, you know, it wears on you. So whoever can kind of withstand that pressure over a 5-minute round fight is, I think, it'd be the guy standing out victorious. And that's one thing, you know, like I said, I work with some of the best of the world. I mean, we have the PRTC here. We got Jordan Burroughs in our room once a week. We got Joey McKenna, Dave McFadden's on our coaching staff. I got some elite guys even in our room that are getting ready to peak. They're peaking right now. We're at the conference tournament. So, you know, I definitely with my grappling, you know, I'm super confident. And, you know, being in a D1 wrestling room, you get that college push. And then to add to the jiu-jitsu side, you know, I work with some of the best, even with talking about just Eric and my guys at Dante's and the guys at Catone's. I even pop in with Sean. I got to get in there next week. I'll be in there with Sean Brady doing some grappling. And, you know, it's just, like you said, it's going to be fire with fire. And I think it's like, you know, like you said, it's going to be just a war. And whoever's got that little bit of extra fight in them, that little bit of extra courage, you know, those experiences that you talked about before, you know, you save those in the back of your head. You remember some of those ones where you had to go the distance and really push the pace. I think this is one of those fights where you have to kind of dig deep and just, you know, see what you're made of, kind of thing. And, you know, I think we're both going to bring it. And that's what makes for an exciting fight. Like you said, I'm not going to back down from a guy. I think this is I look at everything as an opportunity. You know, he's 4-0. He's been up and coming. He's been doing well. And I think it's just another opportunity for me to show everybody like what I've been working on. Yeah, I know I dropped the one to Alonzo, but I think I've been working on being a more well-rounded fighter myself. I know the last fight ended up going right to a takedown, but, you know, in practice, we're working on different things. We're not just working on wrestling either. So, yeah, I just look forward to, you know, showing what I've been working on, not just the wrestling side. You know, I mean, this is an MMA fight. We're here to fight. We're not here to just do takedowns. And I think this is going to be a fight we're going to see both guys to their full capabilities, because we're going to have to push each other.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you tune in on April 12th to catch CFFC 131. This is going to be one of the key matchups that I think is going to take place on the card. I will definitely be watching it. You should too. CJ, is there anyone that you'd like to thank or any sponsors we need to shout out before we let you go?
Yeah, I mean, I just thank everybody who supports me. You know, I do a lot of this stuff. You know, like, thank God we're fighting back home. You know, I love when I'm fighting back home. I get to have all my fans, my friends, family. And, you know, I always say this is for my people back home, kind of thing. I know it's kind of cliche, kind of corny, but, you know, I do a lot of this stuff for them. They invested a lot in me growing up. And to be able to put on a show in front of my friends and family means the world to me. So, you know, everything's a little bit of motivation. And, you know, I know we're going to be filling up those seats. And, like I said, Atlantic City's home. It's got a special place in my heart. And I always think of the movie Warrior. I know I always mention that movie, but it's like I used to carry that in my backpack in high school because States was at Boardwalk Hall. It's like I feel like it's coming full circle. And, you know, to have my parents, my brother, my nephew DJ, my brother's new kid. He can't come, obviously, because he's a baby. But, you know, I feel like I'm fighting for everybody now. And, you know, I appreciate everybody who supports me. And I want to chase this dream and chase this journey, you know, for myself, but also, for all the people that have been there for me from day one. So I look forward to having the fans in the seats and putting on a show for CFFC, and I know there's gonna be some big eyes on this card too, which just makes it more exciting. So just look forward to April 12th and just letting it fly. Just like leaving it all in the cage, and the best you can do is 100%, and that's all I'm going to bring. I'm going to bring that full energy, full effort. That's our thing at Drexel. Bring the heat. So it's heart, effort, attitude, and we do it for our team. And that's my team behind me. And you're in the cage alone, but at the end of the day, you can't do it without your team. So that's why we're doing it. So I'm pumped up, man. I can't wait for this one. I can't wait for the whole card. Just let it fly.
Well, CJ, I appreciate your time. I wish you the best of skill on April 12th, and I look forward to having you back really soon.
Awesome, brother.